Alright, let's talk about different types of contraction, and then we'll talk about what gives muscle energy and what oxygen plays in this role. There's two types of contraction. There's isotonic reaction. That's when the muscles shorten without a change in tension. So this could be you lifting a weight, doing bicep curls. And then the next one is isometric contraction. This is the muscle tension increases, but the muscle does not shorten. So basically, let's do isotonic first, and let's do isometric. Let's do an example. Isotonic. You pick up a light book. You're able to pick it up. The muscles shorten without a really change in tension, but basically you can go ahead and do these over and over again, no problem. Isometric contraction is you go to the gym and you found the biggest weight you can pick up. You can't pick it up, actually. So you are trying to pull on that weight. So tension is increasing, but the muscle doesn't shorten. So you're just sitting there pulling on that dumbbell. It weighs 5 pounds, and you're just like, and you just can't move it. So basically what happens is you're in isometric contraction, and your muscle is not moving. So energy for muscles come from you eating food and using oxygen, and through that process your mitochondria will make ATP. ATP requires organic molecules like glucose, fat, amino acids, proteins to help you make a bunch of ATP. And when I think about ATP, I just think about highly charged molecules that do some work. They can be produced aerobically or anaerobically. Aerobically, if you remember way back in the day from a cell, what will happen is there's a couple of different steps. There's glycolysis. That happens outside the mitochondria, and it makes a little bit of ATP. You could see from my little picture right here, it makes 2 ATP. So it took a glucose molecule in, and glucose's formula is C6H12O6, and converted that into a smaller molecule called pyruvate. And through that process, they were able to make 2 ATP. That molecule gets converted into something that I don't really want to get in, but if you remember way from back in the day, it's called acetylcholine, and that is able to be brought into the mitochondria. The mitochondria will do a couple of steps. It will do the citric acid cycle or Krebs cycle, and then it'll do this electron transport chain. And through these two, we're going to make a lot more ATP for that glucose molecule that we made. If we don't have that process, we're going to do this anaerobic reaction. And basically, that's only going to be this first step. So we're going to take glucose, make some pyruvate, and some lactic acid, which is bad for us. So what will happen is we'll only really make 2 ATP, and that's it. 2 ATP and lactic acid. So which mechanism do you think our body prefers? Yeah, it prefers aerobic respiration because you make lots of ATP this way. We make 36 to 38 ATP this way, where here we only make 2. So when oxygen is around, we can go ahead and make a lot more ATP. And when oxygen isn't around, the only thing we can make is 2 ATP and lactic acid. And that builds up as a byproduct, and it starts to burn. So when, you're going to the gym and the guy says, feel the burn, basically what it is you're fatiguing your muscles so much that you can't get oxygen to them fast enough, because you're either running or you're picking up weights or whatever. And that burn is lactic acid starting to build up. And lactic acid is an acid. So when you have an acid in your cells, what happens is you start to get weaker. And it's because the acid itself is making it so enzymes can't work so well. So remember that acetylcholine esterase? Well, anytime it's hit with acid, it doesn't like it. So it stops working so well. And acetylcholine itself will start to come apart too. And we're going to start to even have some muscles, fibers start to fall apart. So what happens is the ATP synthase is declining to make glucose, because to break glucose down. ATP shortens the results of that sodium-potassium isn't being there anymore, and it's just the lactic acid isn't there. And remember those motor nerve fibers? They get depleted in acetylcholine reserves and stop. So if we think about even those thick and thin filaments for a second, they are ATP hogs. So when you stop making ATP, those myosin bridges can't be made as well. So you start hitting fatigue and stop. That's why if you sort of feel that burn and you're like lifting weight, and all of a sudden the weights fall out of your arms because you can't do it anymore, it's basically because you stop bringing ATP to those areas, and those myosin bridges that were being formed from the thick and thin filaments coming together stop. So oxygen is going to be the thing that will fix it. So you start to take deep breaths. You gasp, and basically what happens is that brings oxygen into the body and starts to get those depleted areas that haven't been getting oxygen, get oxygen again, and that lactic acid will be sort of taken care of. Lactic acid will actually then go through the bloodstream and go to the liver, and that liver will go ahead and convert it back into something usable that we can use. The cardiac, so if we look at the, let's do that in another video.